Hey everyone, David Morrison back with another Tennessee Volunteer 2025 opponent preview. And now we have reached the third Saturday in October, Tennessee and Alabama. As we mentioned, we mentioned in several videos, and you probably have watched every day at 4 o'clock. We have been going through each and every Tennessee opponent on the 2025 schedule. We started way back last Friday when we previewed just all the non-conference games, and then we have individually focused on the SEC opponents. So as we mentioned, this is a big one right here, October the 18th, on the road, taking on Alabama, the Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. Last year for Alabama, a brand new year for the Crimson Tide. No more Nick Saban. It was Caleb DeBoer in year one. And it was a very interesting season for Alabama. They had that huge win against Georgia at home, but then they had, shocking losses to, obviously us, and then Vanderbilt in Nashville. That was a huge, a huge shocking loss, and then and even a 500 ball club Oklahoma team on the road, and then end up losing to Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl, which used to be the Outback Bowl down in Tampa. Um, Alabama's looking to replace some pretty big players here. Obviously, starts with Jalen Milroe, team's leading passer last year and leading rusher. A lot of people don't think about that, but he kind of was Mr. Everything last year. He's off to the Seattle Seahawks, and now they will break in a new quarterback. It will more than likely be Ty Simpson. He's been in the system for about 3 years now, I'd say. So now it's his turn. Waited patiently, especially in the days of the transfer portal. You usually don't have guys stick around this long, but he's been patient enough to wait his turn. So kind of a nice change of pace there. But you do have Austin Mack. I think he's like a redshirt sophomore, and then freshman Keelan Russell behind him. So I wouldn't say it's a quarterback battle in Tuscaloosa, but definitely something to kind of keep an eye out on is Ty Simpson, the guy. Running backs, Justice Haynes heads off to Michigan, but they do retrieve Jam Miller. He will be the feature back, and I'm sure Bama will be producing other guys. The wide receiver room is still very good. The talented true freshman Ryan Williams is back for his sophomore season. Jeremy Bernard, kind of underrated last year in the SEC with all the attention to Williams. He returns back, and then they end up picking up Isaiah Horton from the Miami Hurricanes in the transfer portal. The tight end room is fairly new, but they have some guy that's been in the program with some experience, and I think the guy that was at Washington a couple of years ago with DeBoer is going to be the starter. Offensive line, Caden Proctor, uh, All-American left tackle, going to be a high draft pick, part of that line, and also Cam Dewberry, who was at Texas A&M, part of that number one recruiting class from 3 years ago when they, had the top recruiting class over Alabama. And of course, when Jimbo was gone, that entire class went elsewhere. Defensively for Alabama, pretty talented group. I mean, this Alabama defense was 21st in the nation in total defense, and I think they can really improve. And I think this may be one of the toughest defenses we'll face all season. Maybe the out with the likes of a Georgia, but LT Overton, Justin Jefferson, Deontay Lawson, three top talented players for Alabama. Going to be very interesting to see as we kind of break down the game here in a little bit. Um, how is Josh Heupel, Joey Hazel, and even the analysts of like a Landry Jones and Seth Luttrell is going to evaluate this Alabama defense. I think this is really the strength of the team more than the offense is. All right, so to kind of break down more of the mindset, like I said, we're not going to do a win-loss prediction. This is just kind of a quick overview and kind of a forecast of what I think might happen. Obviously, a huge game on the road that week, big rivalry game. This is a place that Tennessee has not won at in forever. They didn't win there anytime Nick Saban was there. And now this is the first trip to Tuscaloosa in the Caleb DeBoer era. Like we already mentioned, I mean, the road struggles for Josh Heupel and other videos. So this is the second true road game. We kind of mentioned the Mississippi State game, which, I think Tennessee can handle Starkville, but that always going to play in the back of your mind, just kind of the road woes during Heupel. So what's going to happen? We shall see. For Caleb DeBoer, his mindset is, last year you had kind of the shadow of Nick Saban and casting over that program, and now Saban. This is now Caleb DeBoer's really first full off season with his roster, and while Saban's shadow's not gone per se, but you're not going to really hear a lot of comparisons of Saban or the Saban comparison from last year to this year. At least you hope not, and kind of maybe let Caleb DeBoer kind of take over from there, but. We'll see what happens. And this is a game where Tennessee has, obviously has struggled, but just got blown out at Tuscaloosa. There's not really been a lot of close games per se. It's always just been blowout city. At least I think the one a couple of years ago was a little bit closer, but not really. But just a huge game. For Tennessee, obviously we mentioned in the last video, hopefully you should have Jermod McCoy back at defensive back, and we'll see what the quarterback situation is. Hopefully it's pretty squared away with either Joey Aguilar, Jake Merklinger, whoever, and you don't want to have any injuries. And I know we're of course recording these videos still during training camp, and we've had some wide receivers kind of get banged up already with Chris Brazel and Mike Matthews. Now, obviously, we're looking ahead to October, and hopefully they're 100% healthy. But, one thing we've neglected to mention in a lot of these videos is kind of the young wide receivers. How is their progression going to be? I mean, Mike Matthews is still kind of a young receiver. Same thing with Braylon Staley. But the freshman, is a Travis Smith Jr. going to step up, or a Ricarius Jackson or Joakim Dotson? How the tight end's going to be by this point. Is there progression with Ethan Davis? I mean, Miles Kitselman, he's going to be great. And this is actually Miles Kitselman's first game back to Alabama since he used to play for Nick Saban back in the day. Even Amari Jefferson, we should probably mention how's these young wide receivers going to progress, and even some of the younger players, and kind of developing the depth, And like I said, by this point, you're going to have guys that's going to get dinged up and banged up. And, while I think the depth is better in some positions, there's still some there's still some holes that need to kind of be filled as far as depth goes in certain position groups. I think wide receiver definitely is going to be a big key factor. Hopefully everybody's healthy by this point and clicking on all cylinders. But, going on the road and the communication is going to be very critical, not only with quarterbacks, but, with the offensive line and even the wide receivers. We mentioned, like I said, Bama's going to have, pretty stout defensive backs, and we do too. But, how's Tennessee going to find a way to limit mistakes on the road, keep it a close game, and try to force turnovers on this Alabama team? I mean, they do have 2 wins over Alabama in the last 3 years, but granted, they've been at home. Can they find a way to get a winning streak going? We shall see. It should be a lot of fun. Like I said, we'll continue on with these SEC opponent previews as we wrap up the month of October and head into November, as we're hitting the home stretch and getting closer to football time in Tennessee. Until next time, this is David Morrison from the Vols Society.